What's good, YouTube? It's your host, Axel Rose, the Shogun with the slogan, and you are now watching MVP Magazine. And I know I've been gone for a minute, but I'm back now. And I've got great news, especially for all my Sony fan base, because back in December of 1994, Sony dropped the first PlayStation, and whoever knew that over 30 years later, that they would officially be the Guinness World Book of Records #1 home console brand. And I honestly think they deserve it. Because in the beginning there was a ton of naysayers because both Nintendo and Sega was at the top of the gaming mountain. At the top of that, both Mario and Sonic, they could not be touched. And boy, all it took was Nintendo to kind of do a sneaky deal behind Sony's back at the CES show, E3, and that was it. Now, the funniest thing about this is that I'm sure you've heard of the Nintendo PlayStation. It was something that Sony and Nintendo were working on together, and that basically they couldn't quite figure out how royalties would be, divided amongst the two companies. So Nintendo decided to go and do a deal with Philips behind Sony's back, and you know what? Maybe that wouldn't have been so bad in the long run, but what Nintendo did is that they didn't actually tell Sony that they made the deal. Yeah. And that prompted both the Sega Saturn and the Nintendo 64 to get completely murdered by the PlayStation 1. Now, I remember back in the day when I got mine, I'm not gonna lie, there was a ton of naysayers all over TV. Great shows like Games Master, Bad Influence, even though they were kind of hyped about the possibilities of the console. Come on, man. Sony was not known for gaming back then. And for them to just hit it out of the park the way they did. I mean, franchises, classic iconic IPs like Tekken, Ridge Racer, Wipeout, they were all there from pretty much day one. And it is really beautiful to see that the PlayStation brand has definitely flourished into something, big, unlike some other brands. And with the release of the PlayStation 2, Sony continued to maintain its console dominance. And to be honest, this was definitely a bittersweet time for me because I love the Sega Dreamcast, but the PlayStation 2 murdered my little guy. And even though it had tough times in the era of the PlayStation 3 with its much more sophisticated hardware and higher price tag, Sony still managed to slug it out and maintain a decent second place in overall with over 186 million units sold. And if you want to be technical, you could arguably say that as far as hardcore, true, dedicated and traditional consoles are concerned, that the PlayStation 3 was arguably the winner of last generation. And as far as the PlayStation 4 goes, we don't even really have to talk about that now, do we? Now, from this point on, it will be very interesting to tell the future of the PlayStation brand. From its humble beginnings as the underdog of the industry to 30 years later, it being the literal highest selling home console brand. And I'm sure that Sony possibly couldn't have asked for more. And to tell the truth, in this industry where we've had huge giants like Sega come and go, and hey, just because Sega aren't where they were, we can't forget that they've brought innovations and awesome things to this industry, like Sonic the Hedgehog, the first real 3D fighting game with Virtua Fighter, the first real home online gaming console. We have the gaming giant, the reason why consoles came back to the forefront in the West after the horrible job Atari did, Nintendo. Even them, with their 2-generation head start, still couldn't manage to eclipse Sony. So I think the fact that they actually managed to do this just goes to show the strength and the integrity of the brand, and that Sony's jack of all trades approach and they're trying to make gaming cool approach that they took, well, they kind of stole from Sega and the Mega Drive, to be honest. definitely worked for them. And I'm happy to see that a company doing the right things, going to provide content and interesting things for their consumers, is being rewarded well. Because too often in this industry, we see people have great ideas and them not get rewarded. And I'm happy that Sony have been rewarded for all the years they've put in. And especially because this is a brand that I was there from the beginning of. Like, I was born when the Nintendo Famicom came out, but I was way too young to appreciate it and stuff like that. So I was there completely sentient from the time Sony was and came out with the PlayStation. So this is really monumental to me and stuff like that, because I saw the brand through from the beginning. Obviously I had an NES, but what I'm saying, I was a child. Like, I was my early first year as a teenager when I got the PlayStation, so I can remember everything really vividly. And yo, let's just see how long this train rides out, you know? So yes, seen a lot come and go. Microsoft will definitely be the next to go with the way they're going on and stuff like that. But yeah, man, congratulations to Sony. You've definitely earned it. So yes, people, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, all that great stuff. It really helps the channel. Shout outs to Snow Bunny. Shout outs to Jamal King, Larry Caldwell, Barrel Bob, everyone that's been coming through, leaving the likes and all that stuff. Shout outs to Silver Sky. Shout outs to Baltimore MVP, Joey Luciano, all the glitch guys and all that great stuff. And yeah, holla at your boy. Peace.